Hey there, if you are thinking about adding a laser to your craft room, this episode is for you. We are going to dive deep today and really help you figure out what a desktop laser is and what it can do for you, whether you're a hobbyist or a small business owner. So if that sounds like something that you want to hear, stick around, we're going to talk about it. Welcome to episode 1 of the Creative Ramblings podcast. I just did an episode 0 that is really covering everything that this podcast is going to be about. So if you want to step back one and take a listen to that, you're welcome to do that. But this is the first real episode, and we are talking about lasers. And we are going to talk about everything. So this is a no silly questions zone. I'm going to try to get really basic because if you're going to purchase your first laser for your craft room, I want you to be confident in your decision and know what you are getting. So not only are we going to talk about the different machines, but just exactly what they do, what the difference is between all of them. We're going to talk about the space you need, ventilation, material costs, and ongoing costs of maintaining the machine. We're also going to talk about how you can make some profit by owning the machine. I have a lot of videos covering lasers here on YouTube, so if at any point we're talking about a specific machine or a specific material, you can hop back over to some of those more detailed videos and I'm going to go in depth on those. But we're going to do an overview today. So let's start really basic. What is a laser? So a laser, in the context of a craft room, is a light source that can cut and engrave all kinds of materials. These machines allow you to take an image or a graphic that you've designed or you've downloaded from somewhere and put it onto a piece of wood, stone, acrylic, leather, all kinds of different materials. So if you are familiar with Cricut or Silhouette or a die cutting machine of any kind, a laser is very similar in that you design your item, send it over to the machine, and it's going to create the item. The biggest jump from a Cricut to a laser is just the sheer amount of different materials that you are able to work with. It's a really wide array of materials, and it opens up your crafting abilities, which is something that I love. There are some limitations when you have a Cricut. So we do a lot of vinyl and paper and all of that with our Cricut. But with a laser, you're now able to work with acrylic and wood and stone. Love those options. You may also do some things like metal tumblers. So if you have a water bottle and you want to engrave an image on that, you can do that with a laser. You can take a piece of wood or a slate coaster and engrave a family photo on it. You can engrave small metal plaques to put on trophies for sports teams. A ton of options, and there is a laser out there that's going to be able to do each of these. So, the first thing we want to talk about, before you invest in a piece of machinery, and lasers range in price anywhere from a couple $100s to $5,000. But no matter what the price range is, before you invest in a piece of machinery, you need to understand or figure out what kind of projects you want to make. So, do you have a goal in mind? Do you design your own art? Do you make your own graphics? And you really want to put them on ornaments or water bottles? Or do you already have a Cricut and you're selling some things with it and you want to now offer that on a larger scale on more materials? Or do you just really like crafting and you want the newest piece of technology out there and you want to work with more things? Whatever it is that you want to do, have in mind what kind of projects you want to make first. Because different lasers can do different things. In addition to what type of projects you want to make, you also want to think about materials. So if we take the whole world of lasers, there are hundreds of different materials that you can work with. But it's important to know what exactly you want to do because it's going to help guide you into what you can buy. So let's break down the most common types of lasers that are out there and what materials they work with. The first type of laser is a diode laser. This may also be referred to as a blue light laser. It is a really, really strong beam of light that cuts and engraves all kinds of materials. Diode lasers are the most common and tend to be the least expensive of all the other options that are out there. Diode lasers can cut through wood, and depending on the power of your laser, you can cut anywhere from 4 millimeters to 20 millimeters thick of a piece of basswood. So you can cut wood. You can cut some types of acrylic. Acrylic is a really hard plastic. You can cut paper, really thick cardboard, foam, leather, faux leather. There's a lot of different things you can cut with a diode laser. You can engrave so much more. So you can engrave wood, you can engrave stone, ceramic, coated metals. So if you have a water bottle that has kind of a textured coating on it, usually that is called anodized aluminum. So you can engrave through that. You can also engrave on leather or like leather notebooks. So there's lots of things you can do with that. Again, the speed and the depth of which you can cut and engrave depends on the power of the laser. So I think the smallest diode that's out there is under 5 watts. It's going to move pretty slowly and it's not going to be able to cut super deep. So in order to make a very small, maybe an ornament that you're cutting and engraving, it's going to take quite a long time. The further up you go, up to like a 50 watt diode laser, the faster and more powerful it's going to be and the quicker your projects are going to get done. The lower the wattage, so that 5 watt diode laser is going to come in at a couple $100. The 50 watt diode laser is going to run you closer to $2,000. So in addition to knowing what projects you want to make and what materials you want to make, when we're talking about what laser is right for you, think about the time you have. So if you already have a business and you are selling 30 items a day, how fast do you need to make your machine? How fast does your machine need to work so that you can keep up with demand? The next type of laser is called an infrared laser or an IR laser. There are not very many standalone IR lasers out there. It tends to be an add-on to other machines. So I own multiple diode lasers that you can switch out the head for an IR module. So again, probably not standalone, but it might be something that if it comes with the package, it might be of interest to you. So an IR module is a laser, so a really bright beam of light, but it operates on a different wavelength. So an IR module does not cut. It only engraves, and it specifically engraves on raw metal, acrylic, and plastic. So if I have a piece of gold, like a gold necklace pendant, and I want to put a name on it, I'm not going to be able to do that with a diode. If I have an IR module for my laser, I can get a beautiful engrave on that. You can also make really bright engravings on acrylic, and you can do some other cool things on plastic. So if you have a business where you customize jewelry, an IR module might be perfect for you. The next type of laser is a CO2 laser. So again, strong beam of light, but it operates a little bit differently. It actually has a CO gas tube that is cooled down, so it's a really, really big machine. And these lasers are powerful. So my CO2 laser that I own is 55 watts, and the speed and power are pretty incredible. Because a CO2 laser is a little bit different form of light than a diode laser, it can cut through all types of acrylic. This is probably the biggest confusion I hear in the laser groups that I'm in. Someone got really excited, they purchased a diode laser, and they got all excited and they got it home and they're making their wood projects, and then they went to the store and they bought some beautiful glitter acrylic, and it's not working with their diode. A diode laser can cut and engrave a very small amount of acrylic. So it has to be opaque, it has to be cast, it has to be solid colors and usually dark colors. If you want to work with all types of acrylic, so clear acrylic, so you could maybe put a clear piece in a nightlight, or glitter acrylic so you can make some really cool earrings, you're going to need a CO2 laser for that. There is no way to alter clear acrylic so that it cuts with a diode laser. It just does not work. You need a CO2 laser for cutting all types of acrylic. CO2 lasers tend to be faster and more powerful, so they're going to get the job done quicker. But these lasers are really big because they have this giant gas tube with a cooling mechanism on them. So they're very large, very fast, very powerful, and they're on the much higher end of pricing. So anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 for a CO2 laser. So again, be thinking through that first question. What do you want to make? How quickly do you want to make it? And that's going to help inform your choice of what type of laser to get. Today we're only focusing on desktop lasers, so those lasers that you can safely have in your home, in your craft room. So the third type of laser, actually the fourth type of laser, is a fiber laser. There are not many on the market that are safe to use in your home. Fiber lasers are something that you might see in a shop somewhere. They're a little more expensive, and they have the ability to deep engrave metal. So think, if you know what a challenge coin is, where you can put an image on it, but it's an embossed image, so it's really deep, and they're just beautiful. You can deep engrave wood and stone with a fiber laser as well. You can also engrave some other metal and do some other really cool things with it. You can cut all kinds of things. You can even cut really thin metal with these desktop fiber lasers. So a lot of options. Again, think about what you want to make and if you need a fiber laser to create what you want to create. Again, because it's so powerful, it's definitely on the higher end of the price range. So we talked about projects, what you want to make, thinking through what materials you want to use, and the 3 or 4 main types of lasers that are out there. The next thing I want to talk about is space, because you need space to operate a laser. I own a lot of lasers. It's kind of what I do. I talk to you about lasers so I can help you figure out which is right for you. So I own a lot. Right now I am sitting in my craft room and I have no lasers up here. I have Cricuts, I have heat presses, I have all kinds of craft supplies, but I do not have space for all my lasers up here. This room could probably hold 1 laser, but I have moved them all to my basement. My smallest laser is a very portable piece that has a diode and an IR module in it, has a little handle on top, and you could easily take it to a craft fair to do personalization on jewelry or ornaments. The footprint on this is about 7 by 9 inches. Really lightweight, feels about the same weight as a gallon of milk. That is my smallest laser, takes up the smallest amount of room. My largest laser is my Xtool P2, which is a CO2 laser. This sits about 40 inches wide, about 25 inches deep, probably about 12 inches tall if it's not on a riser. This is a really big piece, and it is on a workbench in my basement. So think through the space that you have and make sure you have room to put this. Make sure you have room to get around all sides of it, to open its lid, and to vent it out somewhere. So you gotta have the space for your laser. I think this might be a good time to talk about open frame lasers. So when home desktop lasers first came onto the market, we had really inexpensive open frame lasers. They're just a square box with an X and a Y axis, and the laser head moves across the X and Y axis, cuts and engraves all kinds of things. But there is no box around these lasers. They work really well. They are still on the market. They're amazing machines. However, you get a lot of smoke and dust in your room. So if I was using it in my craft room here, I'm going to get a lot of smoke and dust. So I would have fans going, all my windows open. I'd wear an N95, and you have to wear safety glasses when you're working with an open frame laser, because you never, ever, ever want to look at the laser for any reason. Most lasers now are fully enclosed. So they have a little window on top made of very safe material that you can look through the window, see your laser and it's not going to hurt you. A fully enclosed laser also allows all of the smoke and dust to be sucked out of a fan that we can vent out. So I wouldn't recommend an open laser anymore. Before there were enclosed lasers on the market, it was really the only way to go, and I loved my open lasers. But now that we have better options, now that we know better, we do better. So definitely opt for an enclosed laser. Those open lasers didn't take up a lot of space. You could plop it on your table. They only sat maybe 4 inches tall. They did not take up a lot of space, but these enclosed ones, you're going to need space to put them. All right, so I alluded to ventilation a little bit. Anytime you are cutting or engraving with a laser, you're producing smoke. Produce a lot of smoke with wood. It smells like a campfire. When you cut and engrave acrylic, you get kind of a chemically smell. And all the other materials, leather has a very distinct smell when you're cutting and engraving leather. So we are creating smoke. Enclosed lasers have a fan on the back that sucks out the smoke and it puts it out a hose. This hose should go outside. We do not want the smoke that we're creating in our room. Always make sure that you're cutting and engraving laser safe materials. So you're never, ever, ever putting anything with PVC in your machine. And there's some other materials that you just can't cut and engrave because the smoke then will be toxic and we don't want any of that. But even when you're cutting and engraving wood and it smells like a campfire, I still don't want that in my home. I don't want my whole home smelling like that. So you need to vent it out a window. In my basement, I have lots of windows, and so I'm able to easily take the hose that comes with the laser and put it out the window. You can get some different dryer vent attachments that help you vent them out the window. If you have a space for your laser, but you're not near a window, you need to find a new space. The distance between your laser and the window should be as short as possible so that the smoke can easily go outside. There are some people who have put permanent vents into their wall. So maybe they're in a workshop and they are putting a vent directly into the wall so it goes outside. Really think through your ventilation plan before purchasing a laser. There are also air purifiers you can get. So the air purifier, the laser would cut your material, the smoke would go out the hose, and it would attach to an air purifier that has filters in it. So it's going to clean the air a little bit. But then that air is still going to come out the other side of the purifier. And that also should still go out the window. But if somebody's standing outside your house, it's not quite as strong as a smell that it would be if it didn't have a purifier. About 3 weeks ago, a little bit longer than that, Xtool introduced an air purifier called the AP2. This is the first and only purifier on the market that you can vent a laser into and not vent it out a window. It has 5 different filters plus a cyclone system that just clean the air in a way that nothing else does. I have tried it with one of my machines and it's really, really good. I can cut and engrave wood and not smell it. If you absolutely cannot vent out a window, look into the Xtool AP2. I have that video linked down in the description. It is probably the only way I would feel comfortable using a purifier without venting out a window in my home. If you skip this step, this ventilation step, you will not be happy. You will have all kinds of smells and you will not enjoy your crafting. So do not skip this step. Make sure you have the right space and the right ventilation. Next thing I want you to think about, software. So let's go back to Cricut for a second. If you are a Cricut user, we use Cricut Design Space, or if you're a Silhouette user, you have a design platform as well. In Cricut Design Space, you can use their graphics and images. You can upload your own. You create it on your computer, send it over to the machine, and it does its thing. Lasers operate the same way, but not all software is created equal. So with this step, I want you to think through what your comfort level is with software. Are you a really do-it-yourself person and you can teach yourself any kind of software? Or do you want something that is super basic and super easy to use that you don't have to learn something brand new. So keep this in mind. The most basic lasers do not come with their own software. You get your laser and you have to use an outside source of software. The most basic one available is called Laser GRBL. It's an open source platform, and it took me a little while to learn, but it's not difficult to use. But it does take a little while to learn. It's a basic open source software, not the most user-friendly, so you do need to take some time to learn how to use it. The next step up from that is Lightburn. Lightburn is a paid software. It is incredible. It can do so many different things, but there is a learning curve to learning how to use it. So you will have to put in the time to really understand how to use the software before being able to operate your laser. As you move up in lasers, so maybe you're going to go from that super basic laser to an Xtool laser, you are going to get some proprietary software. So a couple examples, Xtool has a software called XCS, WeCreate has a software called MakeIt, and Glowforge has their own software. These are programs that are very similar to Cricut Design Space. They're very easy to use. They are meant to be user-friendly. I have tutorials on all of these softwares to kind of just show you where everything is, but they allow you to bring in your own designs. So maybe you're an artist and you've created your own. They allow you to bring in designs you've purchased from Creative Fabrica or Etsy. They also have basic text, shape, and image tools to allow you to create directly within the software and then send it over to your machine. Most softwares are softwares. They have to be downloaded to a computer. They don't work super well on a Chromebook because you can't download. So a tablet or a computer that has enough space to operate a software is something that you should probably have. Some of these softwares also have apps that go with them so that you can use an app to operate the machine from your phone. But typically those apps are going to be a little more limited than the main software that is on your computer. The only one I can think of that is web-based is Glowforge. So you have to have internet connection in order to use it. The other ones, you do not need the internet in order to use the software. On the topic of software, it's important to understand how your laser connects to your computer or your tablet or whatever you are using. Most have two options. One is to connect from a USB port directly on the machine directly to your computer. That's going to be the fastest option, so the files are going to get from your computer to the machine the fastest. A lot of them also have a Wi-Fi connection, so you can go from your computer to your laser and there's no cords. I prefer Wi-Fi connections because this is the laptop that I use for all of my lasers, and I can sit in a central location and just connect to the ones I need to connect to. Wi-Fi is fairly reliable, but it depends on the brand and the manufacturer you're going with. It also can take just a little bit longer, and it depends a lot on the power of Wi-Fi in your home. Most lasers do not need the internet to operate. The only exception is Glowforge. Glowforge makes 3 different lasers, a diode and a CO2, but they have a web-based software, so you need internet to run the software. You have to stay connected to the internet while you're running your machine. And there's no cords between your computer and the machine. It's just run on Wi-Fi. So really important to know, again, before buying it, to make sure that works with your setup at home. Okay, you still with me? We've covered a lot of information here. The next thing I want to talk about, I think, is probably the most important thing. You've already thought through the projects you want to make, the materials you want to use. We did a little bit of an overview of what a diode can do, what a CO2 can do, what a fiber laser can do. We talked about space and ventilation and software. Now we want to talk about your budget. Because wouldn't it be nice if we all could afford the most expensive laser with the best workbench setup and all the accessories? But that's not the case. So we need to talk about budget. And I will tell you that there are some amazing machines available at a really budget-friendly price. Diode lasers are going to be the least expensive lasers for you. The more powerful you get and the more intricate the technology, the more expensive they're going to be. An open frame diode laser can start at $200 to $300. I do not recommend an open frame laser, but it's available. Once you get into an enclosed laser that is at least 10 watts, you're probably starting somewhere around $800 and going up to a couple thousand, depending on what that laser can all do. Lasers are almost always on sale, some manufacturer or another. I do send out a newsletter every week, and in it I'm going to include some fun laser topic, but I also include the deals of the week where I'm sharing discount codes, upcoming sales, all kinds of things. Because lasers are so expensive, they're not impulse buys, so do some price tracking and understand what the regular price is and how often they go on sale. Being November, we are coming up on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. This is a fantastic time to buy. Xtool has actually already started their Black Friday sale last week. So there's some good deals out there right now, but watch it for a while and understand what the regular price is and what the discounts are. In addition to the machine, you're gonna need some materials. So it is really fun to go do some local discount buying when you first get your machine. I like going to Dollar Tree. They have cutting boards for $1.25 that are great to play around with. I will hit up Walmart and I will look in their clearance section for all kinds of things that I can engrave. Aldi Finds will often have cool tumblers or seasonal platters. Like I've got one that's in the shape of a pumpkin that I can engrave. So there's a lot of different materials you can test on. Once you figure out what works for you and you want to start making in bulk and selling, you're going to need to buy in bulk. So you can go to Amazon. I get my basswood from Amazon. It's about 12 sheets for $20-ish. There are also some laser material manufacturers. So Houston Acrylics is a great one for acrylic of all kinds. You can also get materials directly from the manufacturer. So Xtool and We Create and Glowforge all make their own materials, and you can get some good deals there too. Acrylic is a really popular material to work with. I love working with it. It's fantastic. Acrylic is going to run you anywhere from $5 to $15 for a 12 by 12 sheet of material. So in addition to the machine price, you need to understand the price of your materials. Then there's accessories. When you purchase a machine, you can buy just the machine, but there are a lot of other add-ons you can get. I always recommend bundles, whether it's Cricut or a heat press or a laser. Bundles are a great way to go because it'll get you the machine, maybe some materials, and some accessories at a really great price. Accessories can include a fan that improves your ventilation of your laser. It could include an air purifier. It could include a riser that raises your whole machine up so that you can do really tall items in it. A rotary attachment is really, really popular. So a rotary attachment hooks up to most lasers and it allows you to engrave tumblers. So if you have seen tumblers out there with people's names on them, even the big like 40-ounce Stanleys, you can engrave those in a lot of different lasers. But you need a rotary attachment for that. There are conveyor belts for some lasers, so you can batch process 100 little pieces of jewelry at a time. When you are looking at your machine, think about the budget that you have, and then think through what add-ons can you put on this machine down the road. Some you cannot. So know that with a diode laser from Glowforge, there is no way to raise it up. You cannot do a tumbler, you cannot add a rotary attachment, you cannot do really tall items. So understand the machine that you're looking at and what the add-ons are down the road. One of the things I really like as an add-on, and we mentioned this earlier, is that IR module that doesn't cut anything, only engraves. The IR module can be added to a lot of different lasers. So both We Create and Xtool make lasers where you can put the IR module in it. You may not need that right now when you're just learning the whole laser world, but a year from now, you may want to add it on. It's really good to know that it's available. The last thing you want to consider as far as budget goes is maintenance. It's hard to say how long a laser lasts. Not every company is going to tell you how long they think a laser is going to last. I would say that for most diode lasers that are well built, you can look at about 10,000 working hours. That is how many hours the laser is on and actually working, not how many hours it's sitting in your room. Make sure that you clean and maintain your laser according to the guidelines that come with your laser. Anytime you cut a project and you get dust and char and little pieces, clean it out. A clean laser operates better. You may want to clean your mirrors or your lens, clean out your filters and your fans. All of this is going to extend the life of your laser and help you get more for the investment that you made. So here's just a few more things to consider when you are looking into purchasing a laser. I have mentioned a number of companies, and I think the three big ones that I'm comfortable with are Xtool, WeCreate, and Glowforge. There are a lot of other manufacturers out there. I also own a laser pecker. There's Omtech. There are just a lot of other laser manufacturers. Look into these brands. Almost every laser manufacturer has some type of Facebook community group. And these groups are pretty fantastic, and they're going to tell you a lot about the company. Laser users tend to be really friendly and really helpful with each other. So before you even purchase a laser, join some of those groups and ask your questions or just read through the posts to get an idea of what kind of reputation does this brand have? What are customers saying? What do they recommend? Start with those groups. We talked about this a little bit, but really think through, if I'm going to purchase a laser, what can I add on to it down the road? So if you purchase a $700 laser right now, and there is absolutely no way to upgrade it, when you outgrow that machine and you want to do more, you have to purchase an entirely new machine. And I'm going to recommend one later that I think is a great place to start, but sometimes purchasing a base model that you can upgrade a year from now is a really good way to go. All right, so here's my recommendations. If you want to get into the world of laser crafting, and you've gone through everything we've talked about, so you understand what you want to make, you understand the type of laser that you need, you understand your space and how to safely ventilate it, I would absolutely recommend looking at Xtool as a manufacturer. They sell just a lot of lasers in the US and worldwide. They have a lot of customers. They've been doing this for a while. They are not a startup. They have a really good history. So sometimes repetitions just make you a better company. You will find a lot of Xtool customers out there. So if you join their Facebook group, and they have a Facebook group for every one of their machines, and then a regular general Xtool group. There's also unofficial groups too that people start. But you can get an idea of what Xtool is, who they are, and what that customer service is going to be like for you. You can also find a lot of people who purchased their first Xtool years ago and have since bought many more because they're so happy with the company. There are some other great companies out there too. Glowforge has a good reputation, so does WeCreate. WeCreate is a much newer company. Glowforge tends to be a very user-friendly machine, not a lot of bells and whistles, but super easy to use. So investigate these different brands, find one that works for you. So my recommendation, if you are looking for your first laser, I would start with a diode laser. This is the blue light laser. You're not going to be able to cut every type of acrylic, but you're going to be able to work with wood, some acrylic, leather, stone, paper, cardboard, cork, all kinds of different things. Diodes are the least expensive lasers out there, but they can do a lot. My first lasers were diodes. I use diodes all the time. The Xtool S1 is a really, really versatile machine. It is a large rectangle of a machine, and I like the S1 because there are so many add-ons to it. So you could start with the basic 10 watt laser module inside of the S1. Then you could upgrade down the road. There's a 40 watt and a 20 watt available. You can also add on an IR module to the S1. You can add on a riser to lift the whole machine up to do really tall items. You can do tumblers, so there's a rotary attachment for it, and there's a pass-through. So think about, you have one of those really tall signs you want to engrave, you can get a pass-through or a conveyor for the S1 as well. I like the S1, one, because it's budget friendly in the beginning, but there's so many ways to add on to it down the road. My S1 is my absolute favorite diode laser. I use it all the time. I really like it. It has just worked for me. I also really like Xtools software, and I have a ton of videos on the software if you're having trouble getting started with it, but it's just easy to use. I didn't mention this when we talked about software, but for most softwares, you do not need to own the machine to download it. They're free to download. So if you want to play around with it for a little bit, you won't have all of the capabilities because your machine's not connected, but you'll be able to get a sense for how it works. So that's my recommendation. I hope that what we talked about today gives you a good idea about how to approach purchasing your first laser. It can be overwhelming. Watch some of my videos, join some laser groups. Do not rush into this. Don't let anybody push you into buying a laser immediately. A big purchase like this should be well thought out. So let me talk to you a little bit about some craft deals that are going on this week. Again, it is November, middle of November already. We are coming up on Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Xtools Black Friday sales have officially started, and you can get machines up to 60% off. Link is down in the description of this video. Go take a look. The discounts apply not only to the machines, but the accessories and materials as well. You are going to find some really good deals on Amazon as we go toward Cyber Monday. Amazon's a great place for materials. I also want you to take a look at Creative Fabrica. They have a phenomenal deal running right now. Creative Fabrica sells designs. So if you want a starting point for designs to cut and engrave with your laser, look at Creative Fabrica. This podcast goes live every Wednesday morning. Hit that subscribe button so you get notified when the next episode goes up. I also have a newsletter for this podcast if you want to get a notification in your inbox when the next podcast premieres. If you want to be cool like me and have this crafting sweatshirt, I have these for sale down in the description as well. If you are listening to me and thinking, I want to be a guest on that show, because this is episode 1, but man, there are some amazing people out there who have a lot of information to share that I would love to have conversations with. So if you are one of those people and you want to have a crafty conversation with me, fill out the form down in the description and let's chat. Thank you for being here for episode 1. I really look forward to more crafty conversations. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.